All right. Welcome to Debrief week number 4, or Debrief 4 week number 4. Maybe this is the 5th week of the
I
show.
think it's the 4th week of Pro League and the 6th
And
episode.
counting is not my strength. That's why we have stats people. Yeah, welcome. We are here to talk about week 4. This is kind of, I guess, the only real, I would say, big weekly discussion show about the matches that happened the week before. Talking, still warming
directly
up
about
for
the
today.
matches, right? There's a lot of discussion with pro players and,
Yeah.
a guest and all that stuff. Well, I mean, a lot, but it still is not a whole lot. There could be more, but talking directly about the game and giving feedback on it, I don't think there's a whole lot of it, or dedicated to it anyway.
Either way, I'm glad for people that are checking it out, starting to pick up a little bit. We are on iTunes now, as well as
Yes.
I think there was somewhere else we were on. But yeah, make sure to check it out. If you are someone that normally just listens to audio and doesn't really want to watch the YouTube videos or something, that's cool. Pick it up there, get the audio version. Or is that the video version on iTunes?
Oh, I think it's only audio.
Okay, good. Yeah. So if people want only the audio, we'll try and get it on more platforms as well. I know there's a lot of podcast platforms out there. For those who just want to listen, we try and keep the visuals, or not dependent on the visuals. So that if you guys just want to put it in the background while you're doing other stuff or whatever, you can always listen even if you're just on the YouTube. I know YouTube requires YouTube Red to be able to listen while your screen's off, unfortunately. But if you have that, you can do that as well. So I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way for changes to what we're doing to podcast. We are still working on trying to get some guests for future episodes, but for now, it's focused a little bit more on just, like you're saying, kind of the weekly recap and talk about the games a little bit. Also, the infographic, I think, as well, is a good companion to this podcast. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff that's on it, but also you can check that out. It is out, posted, and pinned at the top of the subreddit, the R6 Pro League subreddit. So make sure to check that out because they put a lot of work into that, and I think it's a fantastic way to really get caught up on some of the high-level stuff about the week, as well as some individual players' plays and stuff like that, which we're going to be talking about. But definitely some good data there, and we'll be referencing that as well. But you don't need to see it during the podcast to get the ideas. We'll just be talking about it.
Yeah, it's just a great support. I mean, pretty much everything is there, really.
Yeah.
If you're looking for information about what happened this week, it's probably there.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely going to be some details missing in terms of interesting plays and overall how the match went down outside of stats and stuff like that. But this is a good way to back it up. And I got to give a shout out to the whole team at SiegeGG for all the work they put into putting all that together. They all do a fantastic job of that. And I think that helps a lot. So with that being said, I just figured we talk a little bit generally first about some of the Pro League matches, some of the trends that we're seeing in terms of this week. They did adjust the stats, which was nice based off of kind of me wanting to see Group B compared to Group B instead of Group B compared to Group A. But we did have an interesting shift in that regard. So part of the reason I'd said that, for example, was Oregon. So Group A wanted to play Oregon. Group B didn't originally. This week, somehow, Oregon completely flipped on that. This was Group B, it was my understanding. This was Group B, and they played more Oregon than anything else. So definitely some trends getting swapped around. So it was interesting to see it compared to previous Group B.
It is, and I mean, the win rate on this map is also somewhat very close for defense and offense. It's sitting at 48-52.
Overall, we saw a lot more balanced defense. I mean, the best example, of course, is Bank, which was 50-50. And I think right now, that's the standout in the current meta. In my opinion, probably the best map we have right now. It's not a map that I care for that much, but in the current meta, which I know we say meta a lot, and that's probably annoying to some people, but it's the best way to describe the climate, the environment.
It captures a lot of emotion around what's going on.
Just the current zeitgeist, whatever. But yeah, so that one's doing pretty well. That was the second most played. Well, I mean, there was a bunch at 2, so I guess you can't really say the second, but Clubhouse surprisingly getting played quite a bit, although it's not been great. And it's interesting when you see the stats for Clubhouse because it's kind of skewed because Latin America couldn't seem to attack it for crap. So they lost, or they won a lot of defensive rounds, where as you compare that to say North America, where it was almost all attack rounds. It just shows that the attack strats, I would say, are a little more prepared in North America, for example. They really seem to have because you could see the repeated attempts it takes. There's a couple different takes that are being used. So I still reference the EG versus SSG match because both of them almost never changed their attack. and both of them use 2 different attack strategies with some overlap, and yet they won almost every single time on attack. So that just shows in North America, attack has strats for Clubhouse. In Latin America, they don't play as strat heavy. They play a lot more fluid. And I think that in some cases, especially with Clubhouse basement, that leads to more defensive rounds than other regions.
I mean, from past experience, Latin America they have, the general idea of what they want to do, but it's very loose in the way they do the strategy they have. And the strategy is not like guideline based and you do this. It's not prescribed. It's very loose. And when they have a very precise strategy, it's most likely because they counter strat the team that's in front of them. And they do that a lot between themselves. And I think that's one of the reasons why they've been struggling on the international scene, because they rely so much on countering the team in front of them. Then when they play against, let's say, Penta, who can adapt and come up with a round mid-game, it's hard for them to just adjust to it because they're not as flexible as NA or EU for that matter.
Yeah, I feel like overall Latin America probably need to change how they play the game a little bit, because I feel like in some of the previous seasons it worked okay. In this current season, I feel like their meta has been devolving into just a lot more chaos and somewhat randomness of who wins what. It doesn't seem to be as consistent. It seems like for example, referencing one of the specific matches, FaZe versus Liquid really should have gone to FaZe if FaZe was playing off their strengths instead of just kind of playing. And I feel like, seeing Liquid 2-0 them, when Liquid hasn't been a great team this season, is, again, like just this overly flexible meta, I would say, just doesn't have enough backbone to it in terms of the way they play to really. I mean, they have operators they like, it seems, but it doesn't feel like they have strats that they solidly stick to and then work off of. And I feel like that just doesn't give them any kind of baseline is the problem. It's like, you don't have to follow your strat, but you need to have some idea so that it's not dependent on them screaming a bunch of Portuguese at each other to figure out what to do. Because the more strat baseline you have, the less work an IGL has to do to get people to do their job. And the more you can rely, without having to say anything, on the other people doing what they're supposed to be doing. So, let's say you have a Thatcher. Thatcher knows what to thatch. You don't have to sit there and make callouts for him constantly. He knows how to play it, and you can make callouts for adjustments. But you don't have to be like, oh, I got to make sure Thatcher's doing his thing, or I got to make sure Thermite's ready for the plant. Just stuff like that is not is a problem for North America for the most part, whereas it definitely is for Latin America.
Yeah, well, I mean, the IGL job is already hard enough. If you have to babysit every player with that, it really is a hard job to complete, and you can't really focus that much on the next round that's coming and how you're gonna change the way you play to try to win mostly. And I mean, this is especially true for Brazil with the next season with the ban operator. You're gonna have to be very, very much flexible on what you're gonna do, because I mean, if you have a strat that relies on one operator and this operator is banned, well, you need a back idea or a back strategy to figure out a way to win, and sometimes you'll have to just come up with something mid game. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting next season, because that the whole operator bans could work for or against Latin America. Their flexibility could pay off, but if their flexibility doesn't include flexibility on which operators they're good with, yeah, that could definitely backfire.
Yeah,
let's say they ban Blitz, or the region using Sledge more or Twitch more. Sledge is not one that's a high candidate to be banned though, so I don't think that will be a better thing. But I don't know. It's just, I think in the current meta too, we've talked about, Brazil can't stand still very well, and that makes their defenses not so great sometimes. But then again, the attacks just being so fragile, it feels like that doesn't seem to matter as much as you would think it would. I don't know. Another interesting note I wanted to bring up too about the general stuff before we're just bashing Latin America to death is Skyscraper has not been played once yet.
Right.
And I think that's interesting.
I don't know what happened there. I don't think people like it, but I mean, in the previous season it was played and strategy were good, but I don't know, this map I've seen some weird stuff. either like I remember one time where I don't remember both team we were playing on it. It was a while back, and it pretty much came down to who's gonna get defense twice. And
Yeah.
then the next game, the next week, like offense was just shredding everything. It was the complete opposite of it, and I don't know what it is about Skyscraper, but I feel a lot of players I feel like are not comfortable on this map.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that definitely could be played, but the teams just are so focused on the current maps because of how much they've changed how you play them that they don't want to add another map to their map pool of adjustments that isn't as common. And so I think it's just kind of this downward spiral of Skyscraper because some teams don't want to play Skyscraper, no teams want to play Skyscraper because they just, no one's trying to bring it up. But I mean, it's giving Coastline a shot. Still not as frequent as a lot of the other maps, but it's giving Coastline more of a chance because Coastline feels a little more balanced at the moment. The map's a little more played in terms of the whole map. I don't know. It just seems a little more relevant at the moment. But at the same time, I feel like Skyscraper could be good in the current meta in the sense that, you have Lion to help on attack and stuff like that. But this is a map that can really work for defenders because of all the jump outs, the ability to fight repels, stuff like that you can do on the map. But maybe it's because there's a couple counters to Valkyrie. I mean, one of them maybe not so much, but you have a lot more IQ play now, for example. And so that's going to be one counter to that. As well as you also have Dokkaebi being played a bit. And that could work against, but no one really hacks cameras for the most part in
it's mostly
Pro League, but it's still certainly a possibility. Let's say someone goes for a jump out on you once, get the kill on them, hack their camera, and now you can make sure that you know exactly where the cams are, take them out, no more jump outs. But I don't know. There has been some people playing a lot of Dokkaebi, but I don't think we're seeing the hacks on it.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is about this map, but I know a lot of pro players and semi-pro don't like it, don't enjoy it. I think it mostly comes down to not enjoying the map and the layout of it, than just it being a bad map. But it's a good map.
Yeah,
it's a worse map in the map pool.
I feel like if people could come up with a lot better Pro League level strats for some of the different bomb sites, and being less dependent on the geisha side of things, that I think we could see a little bit more of that map being played. Coastline's a good parallel in a way because Coastline was overly dependent on Penthouse before, and I feel like teams are starting to branch out a bit. So it's definitely starting to develop as a map overall because it does have quite a few viable bomb sites. I'm still not a fan of Hookah, but I know there are people who think it's strong and people who don't, and it really depends. It's just one of those very exposed to the outside spots, and I think that can work for or against you depending how you play it. But overall, like Coastline, again, just working out pretty well. Even people playing Blue Sunrise quite a bit. That one almost is like a bait them into the room and kill them kind of ambush bomb site, I feel like.
Yeah, well, Coastline definitely seen some improvement over the last season. I think it's been in for... was year one, season 1, was it? It's a mirror patch, so season 1, year 2. So yeah, it's been around for quite a bit.
Well, it was the next map introduced after Skyscraper. So.
Yeah. So and usually what happens is the new map that get introduced in Pro League is not going to be played for at least a season, or not that much anyway. Like maybe once or twice at the end of the season.
Yeah, we discussed that a lot last week about the idea of theme park being in there and stuff like that. And I still stand by what I said last week.
Hopefully the next map with, I think it's Italian Operator, the next DLC.
I believe so.
So hopefully the map will be great and good enough for Pro League. That being said, I think we're getting a rework of Clubhouse, or I don't remember the timeline, but we're getting a reworked map too, I think. So hopefully those will be good enough to like swap out some maps from Pro League. I think we discussed this plenty last week.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I don't want to beat it to death, but it's still an important point going forward, and we'll see what the map pool is like going into the next season because that hasn't really been established yet, as far as I know. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting because map pool is going to matter more next season with best of win anyway. So, anyways, the moving on from the map stuff, going to the actual matches, the individual matches. So
NA.
NA was.
We have the number 2 team confirmed who's going to be in relegation, and it's CLG.
CLG, wow, what a match! Like it was interesting. So what I wonder is, and I talk about this quite a bit on the Pro League broadcast in terms of them needing a coach. Now knowing for sure that they have exec, not sure how long exec has actually been making decisions on the team or helping them make decisions.
I don't know how long, but I mean, it takes quite some time to just have an impact on, if you want to change completely a team and for it to work.
Yeah. However, that being said, there were some change-ups in terms of operators being played that I think were effective. They were the only two things that were effective in terms of how they played, which was putting Laxing back on his old Blackbeard on Cafe, which is something he used to play to death, he was the strongest fragger. And then putting England on Glaz. And I've talked a lot of smack about England, and he had just really, really been struggling a lot of the time. And like having him play Ying was absolutely not working. But throwing him on Glaz was actually surprisingly effective on Cafe. And I feel like he was like the top fragger on Cafe, which was, I mean, good to see. Like, so there's something there. If you could find England's strengths and work off those definitely work. Same with Laxing. But Sky's bottom fragging pretty much just, he had like England's level of KD.
He had a rough week, that's for sure.
Him and Chapstick were both just struggling, and I feel like this just comes down to them lack of coordinated strategy and more just dependent on fragging opportunities that Mouse just wasn't giving them.
I mean,
go ahead.
Clearly, they need to figure something out because that's 2 weeks in a row that they haven't been performing a whole lot. And I mean, we can backtrack to the Invitational too, that they did not perform as well as we thought they would. So
yeah, they've been coasting for sure.
Hopefully, Exec is gonna have an impact on them, and they're gonna get back on track and ready for the next season. Because I mean, if they lose relegation, it's just 3 months of Challenger League, 3 months of nothing, and then hopefully Pro League again. That's a long time.
I can't imagine that unless they just decide to quit playing the game altogether. Which, no matter how much whining they've done, they haven't done it yet. They haven't quit. Like Skies and Laxing, like if anyone was going to rage quit this game, you'd think it would be them, just off of their tweets alone, and they're what Skies talks about on Twitch and stuff like that. So it's like, if they don't quit, I do feel like they will finally just be like, all right, let's get our shit together, guys. Like, I don't know. I feel like, and unless Skies is just like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna stream. Like I have a good enough stream and I'll make money doing this. I give up on Pro League. So I don't know, this is kind of make it or break it, like you're saying. Like I don't think they would play Challenger League. I think if they get relegated out, I feel like they will. I cannot see Skies and Laxing being okay with playing Challenger League, especially with the way the Challenger League is going to be next season, where it's like 3 months of doing nothing first. They're not going to do it. They're just not going to play.
I mean, I'm totally there with you. I don't think they would stay as a team if they get relegated into Challenger League. With that being said, hopefully it's going to be a wake-up call to, get your shit together and work. Something's clearly not working. You just need to figure what it is. But that takes some time and takes some, thinking and just discussing with your teammates. But hopefully, like we said, hopefully Exec is going to bring that kind of impact. CLG.
But speaking of the other side of that match, Mouse really showed up though, and like it wasn't just down to them, CLG doing bad. Like Vertical, holy crap! Like going with, I mean, first off, playing Cav was already like a big thing when he did it multiple times, but he gets a 3K at least one of them, and then gets like a 1 to 2K most of the other times, and goes for a Roam Vigil as well. Like that match alone, Vertical Roam God. Like Cafe was like his bitch. Like he just was wherever he wanted to be getting kills. But as much as we gave credit to Vertical, I want to say like this team has their shit together in terms of communication. And it's not just supporting people like Vertical being able to play really well. Their drone game is on point. And you were able to see that if you're watching carefully during the Pro League. The amount of times there was a well-timed ping from a drone for a frag happened multiple times, where you see like someone getting ready for a shot, there's a ping from the drone, boom, kill. And it was so many times they were just so coordinated in what they were doing. That's how Vertical was able to live so long. And also pointing out another player that was doing really well was Neptunes. He was actually like, he has the best ratio, and it's because he was there to back up and trade. Like anytime there was like some struggle with a frag on CLG, like, oh no, they died in the, they couldn't win that fight against CLG. Boom, there's Neptunes to get the kill. Like he was able to swoop in, wasn't always there to save it, but a lot of times he was there to trade it. And I feel like, again, he was being a very good team player. and the stats being good for the individual players also speaks to how well this team just was coordinated. And I would love to see Mouse going forward like this, because I think this was like their peak in terms of what I've seen so far from them in coordination.
And interesting point to note, Caveira Pro League. It happened.
Yeah, I mean it's happened from the start of the season that we had it twice week 1 because we had Shate actually playing it on bank even, and then someone I can't remember which team it was in North America played it once in bank basement as well.
And it worked. I mean, he had an impact with Caveira, just using the pistol and the pistol is so strong at close range. It was just downing people one shot mostly.
Yeah, but it was down to good positioning and communication to know when
Definitely.
to play those, because you can't just like, oh, well, I'll just stumble on them. You really got to play.
Smart. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously there was some good positioning and like team play regarding that Caveira plays, but it was interesting use of it. I mean, on Cafe, you're like, it's maybe not the easiest map to roam around, but I mean, he made it work. He played aggressive with it when it was the time to be aggressive, and it worked super well.
I don't think that strat would work against a more coordinated team. I feel like, let's say you're playing up against Rogue or EG. I don't think that would work, especially against EG, because EG will drone the hell out of roamers. I feel like if Vert tried that against... I say that, though, but then again, I remember Vert just wrecking Canadian when they were playing on R6TMs, but that's R6TMs, and they're not as coordinated. So, but still, I feel like he could only use that against teams that are a little more independently playing their players and not so much on a coordination. And... we'll see if it's something that gets played more, because vertical. I mean, Brazil was usually the only one to play it before, but now that defenders have to be a little more aggressive, I think it's something that we're starting to see more viable, along with Vigil as well. Don't want to downplay Vigil, because even vertical got some good kills with Vigil as well, because between those two, a loose independent roamer that has some ability to counter either drones or Jackal has been very strong in this super high intel meta for attackers, because attackers have so much intel advantage that having either roamer that can counter some of that intel has shown to be a pretty strong pick so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I can add more than that. It was just interesting game. Yeah. Even though, I mean, it's sad to see CLG go like that, but it's an interesting game nonetheless, and it's just confirmed that now we have Ronan and CLG in relegation.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Ronan. I don't think Ronan and CLG fight each other. I don't remember how the brackets work out, but that would be an interesting matchup considering how bad CLG have been doing, but how bad Ronan have been doing. I feel like CLG would still win that, but it's like, I don't know, Ronan, I feel like it's had a bit of a wake-up call, and they're not even Ronan anymore. No, so you're right. We'll see. But the other match that was played, Rogue versus SK, that was a good matchup. Like, I mean, obviously,
I have mixed feeling about this game. Yeah. There's so many rounds that ended like with timers mostly. I mean, because when you do a last 5-second push, that's pretty much, you're pushing because the timer is about to go out and you need to do something. And it happened.
A lot of that was because of like, there's good defensive strats.
Yeah.
They have between both those teams. And so the attackers were forced. They weren't playing like Supremacy Vitality style where they were just like, oh, let's plan to push the last 20 seconds. It was more just like, these defenses are really holding us off well, because especially Rogue has a lot of good defensive setups that will really like keep people out of the sight for a long period of time. And it played off pretty well in terms of that. But there were still also timer rounds, like you're saying, that were more like the plant being down and them not being able to get it. So it's like attackers were also good at defending the diffuser.
And I mean, I'll need to rewatch that game more in detail and try to pay attention to drone, but I think it mostly came down to lack of information and just drone economy.
Yeah, they're both good. They were both good at denying each other information. Yeah, I mean, you had some interesting information plays. For example, Jarvis playing Dokkaebi like practically every round. Mm-hmm. I know that was probably tilting Rogue at some point, those phone calls, but it was, it was more about the smokes and stuff and having some nice weapons.
I mean, their first round was amazing on border. Just Dokkaebi come in, Ying jumps in from locker sandwich and window, and just run in while someone else plants, and just jump out, and that's it. Round was pretty much won.
And I mean, it helped a lot of the time, but Jarvis was not getting any kills really. Like, he was doing horrible kill wise. He was definitely a support operator. I almost wonder if he would be better off on someone like Jackal, or if he was the one to be playing Ying or something that doesn't depend. I don't know, maybe it's just the DMR isn't right for him. versus the I mean, because
Yeah.
he has the SMG-12, but that's technically a secondary.
It's a pea shooter. I mean, if you don't land your headshot, it's not doing a whole lot of damage at long range. So unless you're very close, it's hard. You need to land your shot because you're gonna die.
I feel like maybe it just wasn't his role or operator in terms of I mean, yeah, maybe he's being good support and utility, but it just wasn't landing kills as well. And I don't always put you know, support operators having to get frags, but we've seen plenty of people that could just frag out with Thatcher, for example, or Thermite, or you know, Ying. Like there's all these other support operators, even Jackal, that like can get lots of kills as well. So I feel like much like it was with England, where he's just on the wrong operator. And unfortunately, that's two play days in a row that we've seen Jarvis struggle. And this is a guy that's been back on like Rogue at some point back when they were under a different name. And so he's been around, he's played these teams, but he just is struggling to find his place in the current meta.
Well, maybe it's not his like maybe it's not his role to frag either. I mean, he's giving away a lot of information for his teammates.
Fragger, so. Like that's what I mean, though. You can be a support and frag. You look at someone like Brian, for example.
Yeah, but maybe it's not his role. Maybe, you know, there's players on support that just drone the whole round and then try to plant. I mean, you don't get a lot of chance to frag out.
Which is fine if the rest of your team is like winning. And there was a closer match. It was a 2-1. But I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jarvis is like, no, it was actually working really well. If you look at it, it's like, okay, cool. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm just looking at his stats. Doesn't seem like it. Because like, okay, so your argument is like, oh, what if they're just doing support the whole round? Then they shouldn't be dying. Like his kill to death ratio shouldn't be so bad then, right? It should be like closer because he shouldn't be dying. If he's doing support without, like, he's over playing aggressive than if it's not working. You know what I mean? In terms of like his death should be a lot lower. So I don't know. That's obviously my opinion on it, but I do think, like I said about England on Glass, like put him in a better role, try out some other roles. Maybe he'll just be like, holy shit, like this is the top fragger now. This is the guy that's like changing the game for us. That being said, Mint was that guy this week. Holy crap. Like Mint was just having a good one. I mean, maybe the rest of his team wasn't doing great. Like Adam wasn't doing very good either, but Mint and Hot and Cold were just like, especially Mint. Like everyone's memeing super hard on Mint because of that issue where he couldn't see because of the client side body and debris. Everyone gives him crap about it. It wasn't really his fault. It was a little bit of misplay and lack of intelligence from both players. Like Easley didn't know either that he was laying in a rotate hole. And so it was like, that was just one of those moments that we just happened to catch on camera because it was a clutch that just makes everyone look silly and is obviously going to go to digest. But like outside of that, Mint was playing his nuts off. Like that was just like Mint really tried and was a big reason it was a 2-1 for sure. Like I got to give a lot of credit to Mint.
It was having an amazing week.
Yeah, it was good for him. Like if Pojo could step it up again and Jarvis could find his role, Adam's always kind of off and on anyways. I feel like if like I said, if Pojo could kind of come back a little bit because like he did good first play day, and Jarvis can find his role, that'll be like we'll see SK like really doing well again. I mean, it sucks to lose, but to lose to Rogue isn't as big a deal as losing to some lesser team. Yeah,
I mean, they definitely showed that they like step up their game since the couple last season where they didn't do as well as you thought they would. On flip side, anyway, Banner.
Yeah.
It's good to see them, like, I know a lot of people say Flipside or SK is back, and hopefully it's the case, because that show match, well, not show match, but that game between Rogue and SK was good. And it's also interesting to see Rogue going offense without a Lion. That was cool to see. I mean, just saying, you know, we are confident enough in our team play that we don't need that OP operator, and we can do it anyway, and they did it. They had a good win-loss ratio on offense. I mean, it's like Border, they worked fantastic.
Yeah,
on defense. On offense, it was awful.
Yeah,
but I mean, yeah. But on the other maps,
are definitely influencing a lot of these stats too. Yeah. So you really have to keep in mind, like week to week, you only see 2 to 3 maps. The maps are really going to affect how people play, and I feel like this season is really shifting week to week more so than previous seasons. Like what happened? Because people are like really just trying to figure it out right now.
I feel like a lot of team are just playing Lion because he's OP, and they haven't figured out exactly how it fits in their own play style just yet. And I mean, okay, cool, but you need to figure it out fast because there's not a whole lot of game in a season. And if it's not working, well, maybe do like Rogue and just play like you're used to play, and it works, I guess, because it worked for Rogue, so why not for you? I mean, Beast Coast in Challenger League is also doing this, not playing a whole lot of Lion, and it's working well so far for them.
Yeah, I mean, I give credit to Ranger as well for probably being part of that decision of just like, guys, we don't need Lion. Like, we'll use Lion when it makes sense to use Lion, and we won't when it doesn't make sense for our strats. Like, just go back to basics. Do your strats if it makes sense to have them use it. Like, I feel like in some ways it was like when Glaz was first got the thermal sight, and like everyone felt like they had to do it, and some people just could not play Glaz, and it's just like it was a struggle, and like yeah, it was really really overpowered at first, but
and
you have to play him.
And I mean, adding to it, I know Ranger said that Easily is a big part of those decisions too now. He's the one like
he's been
working on strats.
Crazy. He's been good every week.
Yes,
like,
and I mean he's also adding a new like touch to how Rogue is playing, because I know he's involved a lot in strats and just how they want to attack a bomb site or defend it.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Say what you will about King George, but Easily was definitely a good replacement.
Yeah, I think it was definitely.
This week, it also saw Geo actually like showing up, because I mean he was replacing Avian, and that was I mean generally some of that was based off of Avian's performance not being up to where they wanted, and then Geo didn't perform well week 1 as well, but this week he did a lot better and stepped it up a little bit. Still kind of in the middle there in terms of play, but definitely better than previous weeks and doing a good job supporting the rest of the team. I feel like Slash is the one that's still really hot and cold. Like he's just not the player hot and cold, but he's just
on and off.
I don't know, not always on it. Like he's just he's very on and off. And I mean I don't hear the comms, so I don't know how they're playing it, but I feel like Slash is always this like leash dog that occasionally gets off the leash and just goes on a rampage. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know about it'd be hard to compile stats on it, but I feel like it doesn't work as often as it does. I mean, other way around. It doesn't work as well as it should, as often as it should. So he ends up in situations where he's just going for these aggressive opportunities that don't work out because he can't execute them on them or whatever. That being said, there were some really good plays, some really good clutches from him, some good opportunities that were hit. It's just consistency is not there for Slash is the problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's not much you had there. I think I completely agree with you. But yeah, I mean, he's probably filling some other roles in game that we never know about, because I mean, communication, we don't get to hear it and all that stuff, and it's probably, communication is a good thing, and not a good thing. Well, a good thing, yes, but a big thing in Rainbow Six, especially if you're going to be playing in professional. I mean, I'd take someone who communicate like well over someone who just can't aim.
Yeah, we'll see though.
Big.
And so it'll be interesting going to the postseason towards finals, because I imagine that Lion nerf will be in place before the finals, the LAN finals, as well as the drop shotting change. So I feel like we'll see a little bit of a shift in how people play, like between the end of play days and the LAN finals. And I think it'll be interesting to see which teams adapt. It'll be too late for ENCE, but for some of the other regions, it'll be interesting. Like I think a team like Rogue will just be stronger going into it, knowing that they don't want to depend on Lion, and I think that will pay off.
I think you're right. I mean, it's sad to see ENCE go like that, and hopefully they'll be able to. I know a lot of them or people said ENCE is maybe not the best on this meta, and maybe the Lion nerf is gonna help them out in relegation a bit. And hopefully they can figure it out, because ENCE not in Pro League is scary. I don't want it to be a thing. I want them to stay in Pro League. Especially after all that streak of winning they got. Not winning, but just going to LAN they got.
Yeah, this is
LAN
the
every
first
season to
LAN they're not going to.
Relegation. Ugh, it's hard.
Yeah. To not have ENCE as a LAN is going to be weird.
But
I mean, at least it's in North America, so it makes more sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. But EU was interesting. I mean, 1UP, for example, was just insane. Like 1UP right now, I feel like are my number 2 team. Like you got Penta and then 1UP, and then I would say actually Millennium may be up there, along with the Vitality.
I'd put Vitality over Millennium, especially after the GA.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to say. Like Millennium, like really put a hurt on Penta.
Oh, they did.
I feel like that was interesting. I mean, that could have been off, like in terms of like maybe Penta was just really off that day. So it's hard to really say for sure.
Yeah, but
like,
well, I
how
mean,
strong Millennium are.
they had the Gamers Assembly last weekend, and Vitality won over Millennium in final.
Yeah.
So
they
I
were
mean,
definitely playing strong.
they're playing good.
That's true. So yeah,
I mean,
maybe,
coming in
maybe
this week, they played this week, and they barely just won the Gamers Assembly, which is a big like French tournament, and I mean it's got to be good for morale, that's for sure. Morale.
Yeah. Morale.
Morale.
We'll see. And I mean, I would put Digital Chaos like maybe 5th,
10-1
and then
up.
like yeah, and then Ents then and Oplon and Mocket down kind of at the bottom. I would say Ents above like the bottom two, like maybe 6th, only because Ents has been successful in the past and they haven't changed that much of the roster, so I feel like they could be good again. So I would put them 6th as opposed to Oplon and Mocket, which are just not doing so great at all.
No.
And I feel like at least one of them will get relegated out, if not both of them.
I mean, the bracket is also a little bit weird because it's based off of like the result before the invitational, and a lot of teams change from like since then.
Yeah,
when
very true.
the Vitality that played year 3 season 2 or season 2 before the invitational, and it's a big mess right now. The bracket is not representative of where the team should be and who should be playing against who based off of the invitational. It's based off of the season before that. So situation like Ants going first like that is unfortunate, but it happened mostly because of the bracket.
Yeah. I mean, it was really a bad play day for Ents.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like getting beat by 1UP, not as surprising, just because 1UP had been playing like insanely good.
Crazy.
But Vitality like weren't even playing like super great, but they were just stomping them. Like you even have that clip that was on of Sparks like 4K clutch in the kitchen of Coastline. That was just representative of how big they were playing against Ents, because Ents just like Wilkie was able to get 1 frag out of the entire I think just in the entire thing here. He hasn't been doing hardly anything. Boonsy as well has been super struggling, and it's all come down to like Kanto, Panari, and Uno most of the time. Like
Uno's still somewhat showing up, which is great.
Personally, I mean, it feels bad to say this, but if I was Uno, I would start looking for another team at the moment.
Nah, they need to stick together. They're a great player. They've been to LAN before. They're gonna come to LAN again, I'm sure.
But Uno hasn't, and at this rate, is not going to. So it's like, when you join the team and you really show up as a new player, like really well, and you prove that you have what it takes to show up without like having to spend time integrating, like that's a really good potential as a player, and potential for them to be good, him to be good on a team that's actually going to go to LAN at this point. So I don't know. I would be scouting him at this point in terms of like, hey, let's poach Uno if he's willing to speak English or another language besides Finnish, maybe. Because obviously, there are people that are Finnish that have been on Ents that are willing to speak English, because 2 of them are on Penta. So I mean, Eunice and Shate. So it's like it's not impossible. They don't have to have the best English. It's not like English is like super great. It's still they could communicate. Their comms aren't the best, but they know how to play with each other, and that's all it takes. They workshop well, they play together well, they integrate well, and so I think a person like Uno could go off and do that on another team, and maybe be more successful. Because for right now, for Ents, unless something big changes, Ents isn't the team for that.
I don't know. I just wish they stay together and work it out instead of switching like everyone is doing.
Yeah, but we've been saying that for so many years, for years now and seasons now. And yeah, they finally won a LAN off of it. But some of that was due to the way the brackets were set up and giving them like more favorable matches, and then like them actually playing really well, but then losing one of their good players that like helped with that. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if they have it in them anymore. It's always felt like they were going to give up after every LAN.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I'm just like that. I'd rather see them work their struggle together.
You want people legacies alive,
like that, but I mean, it's up to them. It's up to them, really. it's easy to have an opinion outside that does not like include everything that's going on in the team.
Oh, of course.
But hopefully they'll work it out. That's all I'm gonna say. Hopefully they'll work it out.
Digital Chaos, on the other hand, being a newer team in a way, like I think they're still doing pretty well. But
all right.
Against 1UP, it was just like, holy crap. I gotta give a shout out to Rich, who's really been stepping it up every week. Like he was doing good on his Glaz play and then stepping it up from there. Wasn't even really playing Glaz this week and just killing it. Like really impressed with Rips. He's been playing really well. And of course, KS finally got to play this week.
Yeah.
And well, he showed up for sure. Like KS showed up. So like they went from being already strong with Lotso playing his role to him coming in and really playing it. KS was the problem.
When you can say Lotso was the problem, and they're still shredded the first week too. So it's
oh yeah.
This team they got it figured out. They have the win behind them, like working with them. It's good to see. I mean, hopefully they'll do great this season. Because I mean, if any season they can do great, probably this one. Like, just the way they played against Digital Chaos was amazing. Everything was so fine-tuned, coordinated. Yeah. It's just like, it almost felt like it was one player controlling all 5 of them. And it was just perfect.
Like I said on Pro League, I feel like 1UP are one of the teams that really plays their operators to the maximum use of their abilities and roles and stuff like that in terms of when they pick an operator, it's not just to kind of do something. It's like they'll really use the operators that they play, whether it's the ones in the new meta or not. And I feel like if there's another big meta shift, this is a team that will adapt because they're willing. Like I said, Rip's not even playing Glaz this week, and that's something he'd been playing strong on. But then the roles he did play, he played strong on, and it's just like I think they're willing to pick operators and then just absolutely utilize them in whatever the strats they are doing. And obviously still have people like Hungry still playing Ying every time. And it was a little less effective in terms of him getting kills this week. But I don't think his KD reflects how effective he was still in getting his team getting those set up for those kills and doing his job. So I think he still was very effective, just not as effective on the KD line as he had been in previous weeks.
Well, I mean, this team, I mean, whatever they do, I mean, you don't have to be effective when, like, the 4 other people playing with you are just going ham, and they this game was a 10-1 game. Well, those 2 map anyway was a 10-1 game. There's not a lot of space to get killed if your teammates are like too good on it.
Well, I think it's a good point when Hungry, one of your best fraggers, is bottom fragging in terms of like overall scoreline. That's how well the rest of the team is doing.
That's peaks. It's
yeah, like all of them were positive for the match except for Hungry. So it was a good week, especially for Rips and KS. But Pear and Vale definitely showing up as well. So I think that team really has a good attitude. They went into Invitational knowing that they weren't going to win it, but they went in knowing that they were going to play their best and they were going to learn. And I talked to those guys a lot after the matches multiple days, and like they really thought about like what worked and what didn't and tried to improve it every single time. And you saw that during the Invitational, that every time they got better at improving the problems. And then going after that, they improved even more. They continue to work on it. They continue to they're really good at playing off of correcting their mistakes and improving on their strengths. And there's just such a good attitude for a team to not be like, oh, if we lose, like it's the end of the world. It's like, if we lose, that's fine. As long as we play our best and we learn off of what we did, that's the mentality every team should have. But they seem to have it better than some. And it's like, that's why they've quickly just gone from like, oh, we're just mysterious monkeys and we're going to make a few roster changes to like, boom, like one of the top teams now.
A lot of teams lack some plan when it comes to what they want to do. Like a lot of teams just get on the scene. They say, all right, we're going to make Challenger League. And then the season after that, we're going to be Pro League. And then they lose like a game and it just shatter all their hopes and dreams, and they completely shut off, and this team is like doomed to disband at some point. And I feel like, I mean, it was the same thing with Supremacy, who's now Vitality. They had a plan. It was, all right, we're coming from Xbox, we're switching to PC. We're giving ourselves a year to make Pro League. It took them 6 months. They still like had a plan of, we're taking a full year to just focus on improving and getting into Pro League. And I feel like that's like the way you need to plan your thing. Because, I mean, the only thing that happened when you lose, you're like, all right, well, I mean, we're still got 6 months. So what didn't work? So this didn't work. let's work on that. Let's improve. And I mean, right now, to me, they are a top 4 team on EU for sure.
Absolutely. Well, going over to Latin America, we mentioned just a little bit earlier the interesting upset of FaZe losing 2-0 to Liquid, because that's the big surprise, because Liquid just haven't seemed to have their act together this season. But this was the first time they seemed like they did, and some of that's even to like Zig actually getting like a decent amount of frags, like because he's someone who'd been struggling, and surprisingly, like by far their worst player was the newest one, PSK1, like just was not doing so great, which was surprising. But Nesk, of course, top fragging as usual, like
showing up.
That not a surprise. Like they're definitely, and that's the thing is, it's like Liquid, if it's not just all on Nesk, do really well, but most of the time it still has just been all on Nesk, and that's a struggle they've always had. But I do think it was nice to see SiegeGG really showing up, because he was one of the newer additions previously, like before PSK1. And I think SiegeGG definitely showed up, even just playing like on the Blitz, which is something that had been kind of like sometimes for Latin America, even though they play it a lot. I think SiegeGG was very effective on Blitz this time, and that helped. And then, like I said, Zig picking it up as well was a big deal. And Bullet is always a decent performer. So, like, if they can continue to play like that and then bring up PSK1, that's going to be the Liquid they should be, but not the Liquid they've been so far up to this play day.
Yep, definitely. I mean, it's still APAC, not APAC, sorry, LATAM. I think there was something they need to switch in the way they see how the game is played to effectively compete against an AEU and maybe APAC at some point when they get up to par with the rest of the world, which is going faster than I thought it would. But there's something that needs to happen in the way they think and see how the game is played. Because right now, it's between them, it's all right. I mean, a lot of players just showed up, and it's a very aggressive style of play. And the best fragger, if you have a fragger like Nesk, is gonna go nuts. He's gonna like shred. But at some point, the team that can figure out how to work against the rest of the world and in their own region, this team is going to be insane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised to see FaZe doing as bad as they did as well.
Yeah.
Like, the only player that was even positive was Cameraman, and that really surprises me, because Cameraman is usually not that guy. Cameraman is always been a bit more of a support player. Not that he can't frag, but I just feel like he's always been kind of below a lot of other players. Like, you have Astro and Gohan, which are always good fraggers. Moringa has been pretty good as well. Mav will pick it up a lot of times too. And Cameraman, like, he'll float around towards the bottom 3 of his team. But, like, that's a sign right there. If Cameraman's doing the best, just like if England's doing the best or something, it's just like a situation where you're like, what are the rest of the team doing? And is it just down to Liquid doing a good job countering it? Was it just the maps? Were they having an off week? Hard to say for sure, because there's so many factors that we can't see on our side. But overall, like, again, that's like the scoreboard's kind of a good indicator sometimes in terms of when you have people that are usually at the bottom at the top and everyone else going negative. Like, that's why they lost. That the rest of the people weren't playing up to their caliber you expect from them. And for a region like Latin America, I don't think that's necessarily due to strats. I think that's just due to them having, I don't know if it was tilt. They could have got tilted, for example. They're a very passionate region. It could have just been a tilt situation.
It very well could have. I mean, I don't know the players personally enough to know how they are personally when it comes to attitude, but it could be.
Yeah, Zig's one of the few.
A lot of people just completely shut down when something wrong happened, and you just can't come back from it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't think that's far from the end of FaZe. I feel like they'll get their act together. Yeah. And, like, I mean, I hope we still get to see them at the LAN finals. I would like to see Liquid and FaZe both go, because they're really big orgs, and that helps the scene, because when people hear about the LAN and hear about the teams are on it, if they hear names that they recognize from other games, that can help bring interest from other games, and I think that's a good thing overall. So I think there will be quite a few big orgs that will be involved. You'll probably have Evil Geniuses and Rogue, maybe FaZe and Liquid. Penta, of course, yeah. And I mean, 1UP's not a big org, but there's definitely a chance we'll see them there. It really depends, but I think it's nice to see that represented again outside of just the Invitational.
Yes.
So and the Invitational is the first LAN that we had like a lot of the big orgs there because of that. And so as long as they get to return for the next one, that will help with the and that will help because North America struggles a bit too. So having a North American LAN with all these big names, because we haven't had a North America LAN since Xbox Season 2.
Right.
So, and that was without an audience. Like there hasn't been one with an audience in North America.
And yeah, I mean,
okay, so I'm sorry, I'm not counting Montreal as part of that. I mean, the North America that I live in, like the America. It's confusing when we refer to America just
the US of A.
Like that one part. And, yeah, the language is stupid.
But I mean, it's true. There's not a whole lot of. I feel like the viewership is mostly from Europe when it comes down to NA or EU playing, rather than being like heavily on North America.
Hopefully the times that it's played is not going to be horrible for EU to watch. I don't know, because who knows what the schedule will be like, but hopefully it won't be unwatchable for EU.
It's probably going to be something like the Invitational, which started at like 10 a.m., which is like 6 hours later on
that was
some
East Coast, so it depends on which coast it's on, where it's at.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, because we still don't know like where it's actually going to be at yet. I hope it'll be announced. They keep saying soon. Yeah, anywhere in that range. So, I mean, for time zone wise, hopefully the East Coast, just because that'll be easier for Europe to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows how that affects APAC?
Yeah. Well.
Speaking of APAC, before we run out of time, I know we're kind of skipping over BRK. Yeah, but that was a pretty good match. BRK really showed up. Yeah, didn't show up as well, unfortunately.
Couple drama.
FK1 showed up horribly. That was and then the drama with BRK and Diogo and the org in general. You guys could catch up on that a bit because I know we're actually running short on time and there's still tons of stuff we haven't covered. So I'll let you guys catch up on that on the Pro League subreddit. But it does have to do with Diogo and the BRK org.
I'm sure there's an article.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a SiegeGG article. What am I saying? You don't need to go to Reddit. Reddit's bad anyways. You know, it's Reddit. So just go to the articles. No one can comment on those. But moving on to APAC though.
Because right now we can actually talk about APAC.
Yeah, well, I also want to cover it just because like a lot of people don't pay attention to it, and that I'll be honest, somewhat that includes me. But we do have people on staff that do a good job paying attention to it, relaying that information to make sure that you guys can kind of get an idea what's going on with APAC. Because the finals are next weekend.
We are actually moving on to the part that is interesting, which is all the sub-region of APAC coming together in their own LAN to decide who's going to go to let's call it rest of the world LAN.
Yeah, that's right. Four region LAN. So it's, I mean, technically the North American finals is actually going to be a 4 region LAN, but then APAC is also a 4 region LAN. So we get a pre-LAN LAN.
Pre-LAN.
And because it's 4 regions: ANZ, so Australia, New Zealand, SEA, which is Southeast Asia, I believe, Japan, and Korea. So it's like 2 countries get their own region. ANZ is just 2 countries, and then SEA is like kind of whatever's lumped into that area. There are a lot of familiar names going though, and even the ones that aren't familiar are actually full of familiar people. So just kind of give a quick summary of who's going, so you get some idea. From ANZ, and this is on the infographic as well if you want to catch up. You have from ANZ, you have Dark-Sided, which is a bit newer one. So that one should be interesting if they can make it. I definitely want to pay attention to how they play during the finals. Mind Freak, which is definitely a known quantity. They've been around since the very first LAN or Invitational. As an Xbox team, but most of those players transitioned over, although they've made quite a few roster changes since then. So it's hard to say like what composition going back all the way to there, because like Jay Dizzle, for example, who is on the team on the Xbox team, is the coach. So like they've got a legacy there going, and they've been super strong. So they've been a big contender.
And I mean, if you don't know Mind Freak, it's probably because you haven't watched the Invitational, because they showed up big time.
Absolutely, and I definitely recommend if you want to catch up before the finals and you want to see how Mind Freak can play, check that out. Also, there's a lot of their matches on, I think it's like twitch.tv/r6_ANZ, something along those lines. If someone knows in the chat, then feel free to put it in there. I just don't remember the exact. My autocomplete on Google figures it out for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can check those out there. ANZ does a pretty good job of streaming their matches. Some of the other regions, not as much, unfortunately. But yeah, they're there. SEA has another familiar team going back to the very first Invitational as well, which is Cryptic. So that's kind of the continuation of that legacy, which is good to see a legacies going on in APAC and familiar names, because that means they're building up some core strengths in those regions. So apparently Finn saying SEA is actually also on R6_ANZ. So that's great. So and ANZ now under Rainbow 6 AUS. Well, that that's not confusing at all to have that. Okay,
That's
whatever.
part of the reason why it's hard to follow or keep up with that scene.
I don't know. Maybe we can get a good article on SiegeGG if there isn't already one. Just a guide to where the hell to watch all these damn matches. So yeah, I don't know.
Korea is hiding somewhere.
Korea's hiding out because Trump's scaring.
Okay.
Yeah. So Cryptic going to be in SEA, but then also the other team is going to be Script, which is the other kind of new name. And so that should be interesting to see how they play, because Cryptic have been they're a really great team, but they've been struggling to make it all the way. So I would love to see Cryptic and Mindfreak go again, but at the same time, there's some other great teams. So you never know, because going to Japan, we have Norengo, which has been a great team. Like they played really well in previous finals and things like that. Almost made it a couple times. I think they were close to making it. And they're going against Sengoku, which sounds like an unfamiliar name, but the 3/5 of that is Ainz players, which we saw last Invitational. So that should be a really good matchup, because Norengo have, again, always been a great competitor. So I feel like either of those guys could go forward. But that should be really good. I'm looking forward to one of them possibly coming out of Japan. If Cryptic don't make it, I would like to see Mindfreak and one of those two. That being said, we also have Korea Team Latency and Team Yeti.
X-Yeti.
We're Yeti up, X-Yeti, also X-Mantis. So that was Mantis that you also know as a team that made it pretty far previously.
Yep.
They're
under a new name now.
Yeah, they're under Element Mystic. Sorry, my enunciation wasn't great. And Latency also has one former Mantis player. So they are kind of going up against themselves a little bit. So that should be an interesting matchup. I still feel like that probably favors Team Mystic, or Element Mystic versus Latency, but I haven't been following the matches as closely to know. I'll have to start doing that once I have to make bets, because then once my imaginary money's on the line. Like, I joke about that, but that makes such a difference for me. Like, honestly, the betting is what got me on board with SiegeGG, because like the ability to put some kind of imaginary skin in the game always makes me 10 times more interested. And I don't know about you guys watching, but I recommend betting even if you don't know which teams to bet on, just to make you more interested in the outcome.
Whatever floats your boats. That's not the case for me,
for me.
That doesn't work for me. I'm just interested because I like to, but betting virtual money for me is not a thing that I enjoy very much.
It's just a commitment to a team winning or not.
I mean, it can be, the little spark that gets you into watching.
It's an emotional trigger as to whether or not an event has a good or bad. I don't know. It just feels like it puts something on the line for me, is in terms of like.
Oh, I mean, it's the case for a lot of people.
Outcome matters.
Probably the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, we can't bet CS skins on it yet, but yeah.
CS skin on Rainbow Six, let's go.
Yeah, why not? But anyways, so that's next weekend, the 14th and 15th. So
I think they're gonna release the bracket soon, TM-ish. So we don't know exactly who's gonna be playing against who right now, but I mean, it's all gonna be at LAN, so yeah, it's gonna be great games if you want to watch it. I mean, if you want an introduction to APAC scene, this is probably your best bet.
I highly recommend it, because there's nothing going on the weekend outside of our podcast, which you should still tune into, and so because of that, you should pretty much watch it. I mean, like, they're doing a better and better job with their production. They have good casters. They're working on what they're doing in terms of like really stepping it up every time, and I feel like it's going to be a really good show. I know previously, like when we watched the APAC finals, we're like, oh my god, is this ranked? What is this? Like gold level plays. I don't think it's going to be like that this time. I mean, could be wrong, but I think it's going to be much better play, and I think it's going to be interesting to see things that could come into the meta in the actual LAN finals, because that's one of the things about these LAN finals that have so many regions now, is there's so many different things. You don't just see the repeat of the meta over and over like you do somewhat during the play days. It's very dynamic in terms of what you're going to see. We saw that Invitational. We've seen it at pretty much every LAN. So I think it'll be really cool. I mean, you see weird stuff coming out of ANZ sometimes, or APAC sometimes, and I think that will be awesome. That's part of the reason teams like Mindfreak were able to do as well as they were last Invitationals.
And I mean, a team like Mindfreak just going to Invitational, playing against some really good team, getting experience from it, and bringing back this experience into the scene is good, because, I mean, everyone back there, well, I say back there, but because it's far away from here, but everyone is going to improve from that, and slowly but surely, APAC is going to catch up to NANEU.
Yep.
It might not be this season, but it's going to happen.
Well, So I think what's left here is we got Challenger League. I didn't follow the EU one, so I'm not sure if you did, but NA wise it was interesting, and I'm helping out a little bit with production on that, so that's why I end up paying attention more to it. But this season definitely matters for it. So it's interesting to see some change-ups. Not yet labeled still are more like not yet playing good. They kind of got in due to some legacy things, and they have not been living up to their expectations at all this season, and they're pretty much done. So they've lost both their matches. Orgless, formerly Friends Gaming, doing pretty well actually. Beat Team Gates. That was a pretty good game. So they're definitely stepping up. They're someone to pay attention to.
So right now it's Beast Coast and Orgless who are confirming to playoffs.
So it's good if you can to go back and check those out to see like what you might be seeing in relegations, because obviously relegations are going to be super important this season, especially for
especially well, I mean, especially with teams like CLG and Ants.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I mean, now down on the losers bracket, Team Sinister was trying to do okay, and then Team Gates versus Sinister is next, so that should be interesting. People have been asking, where do you watch Challenger League, and it's been a bit back and forth. So originally we were doing them on R6CL, but it was decided not to use R6CL, although there was some miscommunications with that, so it did get used twice. Right now, Rams is the only caster for Challenger League NA. So at the moment, for the rest of the season, at least maybe up to finals. I'm not sure where finals will be casted yet, but up to that point, it will be on Rams's channel, which is twitch.tv/therams_1NF, like Infamy was, because he's sort of affiliated with Infamy. So I know that's not the greatest situation, but
it needs to be centralized.
It is what it is. Yeah, and as far as EU goes, there's Verdi-Pones doing it in German. There's French casters. Not sure who's doing it. I'm not sure if it's Scott.
I don't think Scott is doing it.
Yeah, I'm not
sure.
Maybe
he is, but I don't think so, because he's doing the French cast for Pro League.
If you're French, you probably already know. Let's be honest. Like, the French know what the French do generally, so you probably already know if you speak French. Although I guess you speak French, but you don't know, so there are exceptions.
I mean, I watch in English.
I think there is English cast now. Most of the time, I think by demo. I don't remember his exact Twitch URL, but he is doing English, so we do have some English as well. So make sure to check those out so you can see it. If you don't speak German or French, check that out there. So at least there's some good casting of it, but definitely, hopefully the finals will be good. Getting up to that, so you can get at least an idea what relegations might be like. So definitely if you pay attention to nothing else, catch the finals and then relegations, because this is a big impact for next Pro League season, and we'll give you an idea how they go. It's demo_ESL is what Finn said. So thanks, Finn. He also pasted the link in there to Rams's channel. So Finn always, he's like our support player for the Twitch chat, right?
He's not doing much, but no, he's there.
Oh, rip. So just so you guys know, we do pay attention to the chat. I guess it's just a case of where like no one's really said anything in the chat that it felt like it kind of integrated into the conversation, but we do watch it and are trying to respond. If you guys have anything else that you want us to go over real quick before we end it, feel free to say so now. But otherwise, I think we're pretty much wrapping it up here for this week.
I don't think I'll be there next week. I just got fired. I just got fired for saying that. That's for sure.
That's all right. That's all right. We're just gonna take this independent. We're gonna leave SiegeGG.
All right. Well, I mean, if you have questions, that would be the time. But if not,
feel free to throw out some questions. I know there were some questions based off the YouTube comments and stuff. So feel free to leave YouTube comments, and then Finn will probably relay them to us for the next episode as well. So we definitely want your guys' interaction in terms of we want to know what you guys want as far as content. We know you want guests, so you don't have to repeat that one. But outside of guests, if there's other stuff you'd like to cover, or if you think we're spending too much time on something or something's not working for you, please let us know, because obviously this is a pointless show if no one else listens to it besides us. So,
and for guests, I think we're going to have to reserve a little bit more time, just so it might
be longer. There might be like an hour and a half then.
Yeah, maybe an hour and a half, or a little bit longer, because we'll have a lot to talk about, and especially if we have a guest, we're gonna ask him some question, and it's gonna take some time.
Apparently, we do have one question, which is how old is Mzo, and I'll just answer with ancient.
Ancient,
so, far older than I look, I believe. So we'll keep it at that. Keep it a mystery.
All right, we'll put Inspector England on it.
Inspector England. All right, well, cool. Well, shout outs to Spleck as well, our stats guru.
Stats
Although
goob.
Finn would like to think he is now. Sorry, inside jokes. Anyways, moving on. We'll catch you guys next weekend. Make sure to tune in to the next episode, as well as the APAC finals, which, you know what, since we'll be towards the tail end of that, we might even talk a little bit about the APAC finals, which we should be paying attention to. So make sure to check that out. If you miss a lot of the APAC finals, maybe you tune into the podcast and we talk about them so you catch up a little bit, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But yep, we'll catch you guys then. And thanks for tuning in for those of you who tuned in live. Enjoy the YouTube for you watching after. And shout outs to anyone on iTunes. Awesome that you found us there. Maybe let us know how you found us, actually, would be cool.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Catch you next time.
All right, bye-bye.